Evening, everybody. Welcome to Dyer's Place, the place where it belongs to me, I guess, or something. I don't know. Anyway, with me as always is Mike.
Mike, yes.
Yes, that Mike. Tonight,
That Mike.
and tonight we have a special guest. That would be Rusty Shackles, artist extraordinaire.
Hello, thanks for having me, guys.
Ah, appreciate it.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah. So,
So,
let's see. I know we're waiting for some people to show up here. But, Rusty, if you want to talk about some of the projects you're working on right now, feel free.
I'm actually getting double audio. I'm not sure if there's a way to fix that.
If you have YouTube open, mute that.
Let me hop in and hop back out. Let me close out real quick and hop back on.
All right.
okay.
So, in the meantime, yeah, we're doing horror stuff tonight. Hello, Sharon.
Trying
Okay.
this again.
How's it sound this time?
I hear myself one time, so that's good.
Okay, good. So, yeah, if you want to talk about any projects you got going on currently, Rusty, feel free.
Sure. So, I'm all over the place, but primarily I would say I'm the artist for the site 1-900hotdog.com, which is a comedy website started by Robert Brockway and the famous Sean Baby. I do a lot of the artwork for this site as well as t-shirts, and I'm on their podcast every so often. I'm also the artist for 80s Mania Wrestling Returns, which is a collectible card game wrestling promotion thing that's free on at all the different sites. It's a lot of fun if you're like in the wrestling promotion, like Fire Promoter. That's evolved into Eras of Wrestling, which will be 100% my art for all the characters coming later this year. And the most recent thing, though, this is kind of relevant to tonight's topic, is I'm the cover artist for the upcoming book from Limited Run Games called Now Playing, which is Kurt Halata from Hardcore Gaming 101, got all of us together, and we all wrote a book on licensed movie games, including many famous horror games. And that should be out, I think, within the next couple months. So that's the newest one and probably the most relevant one.
Nice. Kind of wish you'd contacted me about that. I would have been glad to write something.
I'm surprised he didn't, but yeah, I figured horror stuff would be. I don't know. Maybe he just figured Splatterhouse. You were done. That was it. You were satiated.
Which is funny because I have a whole series of articles coming up for the site.
Oh, nice. You're in Pitfall, right?
Yeah, Pitfall. I got Crystal Castles coming.
Oh hell yeah, Bentley Rules.
Few other ones I can't think of off the top of my head, including the spiritual sequels, Hero, and a couple other ones. And hey, nice. Jay. But yeah, so expect to see those show up over the next few months. And plus, Pitfall is just the beginning. There's at least 4 more games in that series I covered. But I would love to write an article on, say, one of the Indiana Jones games, or even all of them.
Even Instruments of Chaos.
Even Instruments of Chaos. Snarp.
The one that was I kind of like had to like remind him towards the end. I was like, "Hey, you know, there's a Grease game on the Wii, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care."
Wait, Grease as in
John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, Eddie Deason.
Grease is the word; it has meaning. So yeah, it's that one. There was like a dance around kind of game for it with all the songs from Grease, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to play it now that I'm saying.
Oh my Jesus, this is real! What the shit? I've never heard of this before.
I like the movie well enough, but I never thought in a million years it needed a game.
It looks pretty low budget. It looks very shovel-wary of the time. Is the best way I can put it. So
wow,
my God! And in fact, hell, I'll just post a link in the dingus there. So, well, shit.
Yeah, Snarb. I gotta say, based on stuff I've seen for the Wii, you're right.
It did have some legitimately cool stuff, but the 2000s, like even beginning as soon as the Game Boy Advance, for some reason, Nintendo's consoles became a huge repository for shovelware, which is in some ways more horrifying than the actual games we're talking about tonight, because capitalism is terrible, but I'm not going to go any further there than I already have.
Instead, let's say that not only have you done this cover for Kurt's book here about movie games, but you have done a boatload of HG101 covers for the books.
Something like 14. I honestly lost count, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm. And of course, two of the ones that are relevant to tonight would be the one that I basically co-wrote, which was The Guide to Retro Horror, Digest Volume 3. And then the one that I really had nothing to contribute to, which was Volume 8, The Bride of Retro Horror. Yeah, the stuff that Kurt covered, that was just not... It was a little too far past my time.
At some point, I do want to do the Son of Retro Horror, because I think right now there's been a lot of like stuff like the Puppet Combo games and a lot of like modern Resident Evil influence games that are kind of really fascinating. So I'd like to see like the modern throwback horror games get some love in a new book.
Yeah. Plus, Kurt still has a couple articles from the Golden Age that he hasn't posted. This was supposed to make the cut in the original book, but he cut it because of, I think, space constraints. That was Ghost Manor for the Atari 2600.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I loved that game.
Yes. That really interesting early horror game paired with Chuck Norris super kicks.
Or Artillery Duel or Spike's Peak. It just depended on what combination you got.
Interesting that Zonox did that. Were they the only developers that did that? I think we went over this, but
hey, Ray.
I forget.
Hey, thanks for coming in.
Oh, hey, Ray. What up?
Oh, I've had more days like that than... Why do I feel like I'm missing this right now?
You're having a moment. Let's get back to focus. Let's do fun things.
I'm having a senior moment right now. Because I'm old.
Relatively. Patrick Stewart is older than you are. He seems to have life figured out, so there is that.
Yeah, true. And
Hey, Ray in the chat. Ray and I have tried to work together. It just has not worked out, unfortunately, timing-wise or project-wise. But one day, Ray, we shall unite.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm hoping Primop will stop in, too, at some point.
Yeah, this is definitely his shit.
Yeah.
It funny enough, it seems someone who's a fan of horror movies also to be a fan of martial arts films as well. It's like there's an inextricable pipeline between them that I haven't figured out the connection, but they do seem to have similar audiences.
That's Prime to a T.
Exactly.
Me and my 300 Kung Fu DVDs agree with you, so yes.
There you have it. I figured. Mr. Vampire would be a perfect jumping point if we were talking actual movies tonight, but...
Wasn't that...
Well, if we bring up Phantom Fighter on the NES, that's the Mr. Vampire game. So.
Right, that one's loosely based on it. That's a weird game.
Wow. Hello, Scoops. Thank you for coming in.
Hey there. I like the name. I understood that reference.
Thanks,
I'm
Cap.
such an out-of-touch nerd.
I think you're out of touch.
Well, fair. All right, so how do we kick this off proper, then? I wrote some games as guidelines, but it's obviously not inclusive, and then I petered out before the 6th gen anyway, so...
Well,
I don't know.
We could start at the beginning, or we could just pick something and go from there.
Alrighty. Well,
why don't we talk about Countdown Vampires?
I was going to say, Rusty's the guest of honor here, so, sir, if you wanted to launch off with any horror games you really wanted to talk about, just charge right into it.
So yeah, like I was gonna say, like I'll give like a little brief history of my thing with horror. Like I was not a big horror person in general growing up. I was more comedy. Like I really wanted to see a Murray brother in a movie, to make myself feel comfortable. But yeah, so like I was never big into horror, but like I was really into thrash metal and comic books and all this other stuff that was horror adjacent. And then the video games also kind of really brought me into it. Like I had a little bit of knowledge of it. Kind of like I've picked up Dungeons and Dragons stuff just from reading comics because they always had the ads and stuff. I'm like, oh, I know about, this module or whatever. But so over time, like they kind of started to bleed over into each other, and I started to watch more and all that. And at one point, there's a certain game that had a demo trailer on some PlayStation disc called Countdown Vampires, and the trailer is like we just watched Blade and we've got an idea for a game. Basically, it's the most 1999 thing possible. It's super ravey. It has that gothic font where every O has a cross on it. And it's the lead hero looks like Mark McGrath, but with tribal tattoos all over his body. It's his name. I can't think. I'm blanking on his name, but like it shows all these different characters in the game that are not in the game when you play it. My most favorite one is Mira Swish. They named a lady Mira Swish. Check Gardner, Jules Dorr. So we were talking about the cover of the first book, the retro horror. They're actually on the grave sites. I put them as a little joke, and I was like, "Hey, Kurt, it'd be funny. Maybe I should just go ahead and do a review for the game for the second book." And I regret it immediately. It's calling it a Resident Evil clone is being polite because they had the idea of a Resident Evil clone and none of it works. But I'll give it credit. Like it's basically like a vampire thing breaks out at these 4 connected casinos. There's a lot of little clever horror references. You can be a pacifist in the game, but like it's very poorly executed in every way. The fascinating thing, though, all those characters I mentioned that you don't see, they're not in the primary game. You have to beat the game to unlock the full story mode that does have those characters, which flies in the face of every logical game thing I could possibly imagine. It's like if you were doing you're playing a Resident Evil, but you did a speed.
Oh, Rusty, you there?
It's dumbfounded.
We kind of lost you there for a sec.
I was just ranting, so it's a bad game. You shouldn't play it. But what's interesting is they actually did go on to make Resident Evil 5 of all things. So,
really?
Yeah, one of the most successful, Capcom's most successful game ever, I think, before like a Monster Hunter game. But yeah, it's of all things.
Wow.
You mean this exact development team went on to do that?
Yes.
Huh.
I don't get it either.
Yeah, I never saw that coming.
Yeah. Neither would I. I mean, I guess since that's the point where the RE series kind of flew off the rails and got really meat-headed. Like I could see not Mark McGrath being a prototype for the steroid-addled version of Chris Redfield that game gave us, but I actually do like playing RE5. It has some caveats to be observed, but...
Hey, Mike, look who just showed up.
Oh, hey, Prime, what up?
Hey, all right.
We were hoping that this would be up your alley, because we know you're big on horror, so we're more or less just getting started. So, and hey, it's Kate.
Yeah,
Hey,
Kate.
Hey,
So,
all right.
Kate, Prime, good to see you both.
Awesome. Thank you for stopping in. Unfortunately, I haven't really said much of note yet. I don't know. I'm feeling oddly humble because I've known Rusty for a while, so I think I'm a little shy right now.
Mike.
Yeah, so I'm just trying not to look like a damn fool.
Oh, don't worry about that. I mean, end of the point of that thing is like, what I'm trying to say is buy Retro Horror Volume 2. So you can read more about it. This is all a big shill. This is all like a big, con job.
Yeah.
Sell more of a 5-year-old book.
And while you're at it, also buy volume, the first one in the series, because me, I wrote
Part
about
one's great.
Splatterhouse and Ghosts and Goblins in there. Not to mention Monster Party, Haunted House, and a bunch of other games.
Did you do the Night Trap one, or was that somebody else?
No, I didn't do Night Trap. I did Nightmare Creatures, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Night Trap strikes me as the type of game that Rob would have considered poison back in the day, and maybe still does.
Yes and yes.
Okay, well,
I actually
checking.
played it on the Sega CD back then. And it was like,
Ooh.
this sucks.
Have you played the recent remastered version of it though?
No.
Honestly,
Did they fix it?
Here's the thing, like, I didn't think I would like it, and like, but the thing that it is like it's basically the grandfather to Five Nights at Freddy's. So, like, my kid really liked it. But the thing it is like, once you actually can see every room at all times, like you're not looking at like an icon hoping something's going on.
Oh,
you can
good.
see it in real time. It changes it's basically like, oh, this is what they were trying to do. And I kind of unironically love the game now, because I understand the technology has caught up to make it so I understand what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's why she's on the cover. So if you look at the cover of Retro Horror 2 and you're like, who's the girl? That's the girl who sings the Night Trap song, right front and center. Because it's honestly one of the most important video games ever, just for the fact it's one of the reasons we have little letters on the front of every game now. That and Mortal Kombat, Doom, you know.
Oh, yes, I remember the Violence in Video Games Senate hearing as well.
Yep.
That was the first time I think my friends and I actually sat down to watch the news. And it's like, oh, I mean, so many things. And I know Prime could back me up on this because he was watching too. Just so many people talking about shit they didn't understand.
Well, at least video games weren't banned. It could have gone worse.
True, but you know that whole thing was a hit piece on Sega organized by Nintendo.
Oh, I heard that is a theory that might point into that. How true was that proven to be?
I pretty much believe that's actually the case because they were attacking Sega. They were hammering that poor rep.
Yeah, no,
And meanwhile,
Howard Lincoln was a fucking asshole, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. So,
and see, yep.
I do think it's funny. I think it's funny looking back at that time because, like, the first Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo had sweat instead of blood.
Yeah, but then the second one.
Yeah, the second one, like, it's fully blood. It's the regular version, and like they even had a commercial promoting it on the Super Nintendo that had the Butthole Surfers music. So Nintendo loosens their panties a little bit after the trial. Weirdly enough.
That sounds like an uncoincidence, I will say.
I think it has to do with the amount of cash Sega made on their version of Mortal Kombat, as opposed to theirs.
Businessmen are the true horror, but I'm done with that. Again, I think I have things I'm trying to say here that I really shouldn't be, but yes.
And yeah, I was right there with you, Prime. And I just remember rewatching that and seeing the stuff about lethal enforcers, and it's like, well, this game is racist because you shoot Asians. What?
Jesus Christ.
They're ninjas, and it was programmed by a bunch of Japanese guys. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did that in World War II too, Grandpa. Shut up.
Exactly.
You did it for real.
And of course, the part that really grabbed my attention was when Lieberman brings up this ad that's supposedly mocking Sega's rating system, and it's Splatterhouse 3. And they devoted approximately 4 minutes to it, and it was never mentioned again.
Sounded important to mull upon for them, I guess.
Well, you know,
was that the Boris Vallejo cover one, I'm thinking?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
I think it was Julie.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing about that, though, is it's like, I guess, you know, it's more important to focus on the ketchup blood and the made-up things that these guys dressed up like garbage bag ninjas are using on these slumber partying girls, as opposed to beating the crap out of unholy terrorists from beyond the earth.
Well, a few years back, I do a thing called P-swaps, which is short for palette swap, but it's basically I do like my version, like basically if I were to make a game cover or advertisement, this is my poster, this is my take on it. And I had done one for Night Trap, and I basically made it like an old EC comic parody, like Tales from the Crypt or a weird thing. And the thing, but it wasn't like I don't like make art like that doesn't have like, that's just there. Like I'm not just mashing things up for fun. Like there's some meaning with that, because both Tales from the Crypt, EC Comics, and Night Trap were kind of like held up as the worst things in the world in front of Congress. They're both the reason we have a rating system for comics and games, respectively. Mm-hmm. So there's a weird parallel between those two properties.
Yeah, it's just like, funny how that worked out.
It's a curious slice of history, if nothing else, but actually, let me pitch this theory. Do you think that like brought more attention to violence and horror, expelling people from it? Because it's like, consider teenage edgelords being like, "Oh wow, this Night Trap game sounds really, really adult. Oh shit, we're gonna give the game guy fake IDs and snag this game tonight, man."
Yeah,
it's kind of like where they wanted to go see an R-rated movie and they go see Barton Fink.
Barton Fink. Barton. Apparently my voice was being crappy there.
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. This is that I got. Well, actually, it's technically a refurb, but let me know if that ever happens. Excuse me. If that ever happens again.
It's funny.
The burp. That's the most important thing. So.
Yeah. So you just we'll let you know.
Okay.
But it makes you think of the parental advisory stickers on albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another thing which would always bug the hell out of me.
Yeah. Oh, Discord. Do I go into Discord to do that? Well, I should probably figure out the troubleshooting later when we're not doing the stream, but yeah.
We'll get it fixed sometime, Mike.
Okay. Right.
Someday, Mike. Someday
Seems
we'll get to California.
What? Why are we going to California?
We'll get to California someday, won't we, Mr. S?
God damn it.
Yeah, listen to Kate.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Okay, gotcha. Alright, yeah, I should totally get on that when I can then. Oh, okay. So if I turn the suppression off, then that should be better.
I think Kate mentioned it. I was like, well, I think that's it. I was using YouTube when we came on, so I mean, obviously, I'm not the best person to say give technical advice, but that button seemed to work.
Okay, good bingus. Anyway, so
and Kate,
horror.
You had to bring up the wizard.
Saw that movie 3 times. I still think it sucks. I'm sorry.
It's not.
Once that was enough. Great. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how I saw it 3 times. Jesus, I really don't know how that happened. Whatever.
I think I've seen vice versa 3 times. Maybe the Little Monsters, like of the Fred Savage oeuvre.
Well, I can say out of all Fred Savage's movies, the ones I've seen the most was The Princess Bride. So.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Hey, wait, wasn't he in Goldmember?
Yeah, he was the one who had the mole.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Okay, so I didn't imagine that. Hey,
I've only seen that a couple of times. Yeah, the wizard was pretty boring, actually.
And it was arguably just like a 90-minute advert for Super Mario Brothers 3, so there is that factor to consider.
It did give us that great voice clip for the Ninja Gaiden stream we did.
That's right. Ninja Gaiden, wherever that went.
All right. I do want to say, though, Rusty, I've actually seen your P-swaps.
Thank you.
I would like to get a couple of those, actually.
Yeah, just hit me up whenever you want. Like, I did have like a bunch that I phased out, but I still have most of them on hand because I've been doing it for 14 years. But like at first I was doing stuff like ER Kung Fu and Trap Gunner. Then I was like, oh, I want to make money doing this. So I've done a little bit more ones. I'm actually trying to work on, and this is exclusive to the pod. I'm working on a Super Castlevania right now.
Oh, nice.
So it's that's up next here soon.
Cool. Now I've seen your Splatterhouse ones, of course, which are the ones I'm most interested in.
And I base it off the modern one. I love the modern one. I know I know that you will agree with me probably, but
Vindication.
It seems like a very divisive game. But
remember, I kind of helped work on that one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So
you're biased.
Yeah, just a little.
But it's one of those. I love a good 7 out of 10 game, and that's the top of the mountain. That's the top of the mountain 7 out of 10 game.
Hey, 7 out of 10. That's fair. You know,
I love it. Yeah, kind.
When I reviewed it on West Mansion back when it came out, I think I ended up giving it like an 8 out of 10. So, and yeah. I called it on the issues. So I wasn't, just because I've been working with Namco, I wasn't going to go ahead and like just say this was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, the funny thing was too, and I kind of felt dumb in retrospect. And this is not to name drop at all, but I was at a convention with a couple of years ago, and I was across from Jim Cummings, who is mostly Winnie the Pooh and Darkwing Duck.
Yep.
So, and it was a really horrible convention. There was nobody. It was Evansville, Indiana, and there's nothing there but sadness. It's Hoosiers and sadness. So, like. He was right across from me. He came over and I was talking to him for a little bit, and I was just like, I do video game stuff. You don't even know. You don't need to bore yourself. You're Jim Cummings. You're Darkwing Duck and whatever. Then years later, I was like, oh crap, he was the Terror Mask.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
And he was probably one of the best parts of that.
Definitely, he's phenomenal.
No question.
2x4.
I also I like honestly the context. That's one of the few times I was like, way to go with the context of Jennifer's nudes, because that actually kind of makes sense. That was a pretty good way to do that, guys. You know,
if you could have heard some of the uproar about that, it's like there were some surprisingly puritanical Splatterhouse fans out there.
What the fuck?
Mike, you were there.
I know, it's just... I'm still kind of in disbelief that we still have Joe Lieberman's at that point in time, but I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be that surprised.
But they were fans of Splatterhouse, and they were complaining about the nudity.
And
it's like they just had this picture of her in that ripped white dress, and God forbid you take her out of it and take her out of clothes at all.
It's like, did you guys watch horror movies edited for TV or whatever? Like, did you never have premium cable? I don't know how this works.
Well,
I think it's a certain number of vocal fans, but like in real life, I've always experienced like it's a pretty diverse audience who appreciates those kind of things. Like whenever I'm at a show, those, the anime statues that are very provocative, and the girls are posed like a cat who's presenting.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen women buy those. So,
interesting.
Yeah. That's I think that, it's a beautiful spectrum, human sexuality, is all I'm saying. So.
Yeah, that is fair.
And yes, Prime, you have living beings or undead beings being ripped apart like fresh bread, but that caused outrage. Get a life. Although, admittedly, that whole out of left field promo bit about her being the Playboy centerfold was just kind of like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I like games being considered mature, but also, like, Blood Rain and Playboy, come on. this is a little silly, guy. I don't know. I'm a hypocrite, so I don't know. Whatever. Take from that what you will.
Everyone is to some degree at some point in life.
Right.
I just don't mull on it too much. No worries. Speaking of outrage, though, was anyone outraged when the Grim said "entrance to hell" in Monster Party? That is the worst transition ever.
That is terrible. So
It really is. Yes.
So what I'm going to
Speaking
do
of
is let me just backtrack here for 1 second. I know I said we weren't going to discuss anything Splatterhouse, but that's just how these things go. Anyway, you were saying
you're the Splatterhouse guy, of course.
All right. Anyway, you were saying, Rusty?
Oh no, I was just congratulating Mike on his horrible segue. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I'm full of those. I've got them for days. I was just thinking we don't want to talk too much about Splatterhouse because we did a 4-hour stream on that. But,
Yeah.
But I know that Rob really likes Monster Party. I really like Monster Party. That's a 7 out of 10 game, but it is full of charm. So,
But, I have this to add about your segue.
yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
I guess, if you really want one.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good. Anyway, but
But yes,
obligatory.
I am a big Monster Party fan, yes.
Obligatory mention of that prototype got dumped with the different, more movie-ish versions of the bosses.
I'm sorry, I got to address right here for a second. Yeah, that just kind of seems that way, doesn't it? But, 4 hours of me and Mike, and I think Merc was on that one, wasn't he?
Yeah, Mercury, yes.
And Derek from Stop Skeletons from Fighting. We discussed Splatterhouse for over 4 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
That was one of the first times I was like, hey, this Derek guy's pretty okay when I saw his Splatterhouse video. So.
Oh, yeah. I remember watching those for the first time, and I saw he credited West Mansion. I'm like, all right.
Well, the funny thing is, because go back to Monster Party, I didn't realize this. If burst error is on your radar, he uses the.
Hey, sorry, sir. There's a bit of a glitch on your end.
Yeah, sorry, but I was saying, he uses the title as his logo. I just caught that. So.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
I never got around to playing, but the cover always stuck out. Because it's a literal Monster Party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Monster Party is quirky as hell. I remember back when my brother and he passed back in 2019, so he won't be here to listen to us. But we got in our first Nintendo, and we'd gone to the store to get a game. We had a good report card or something. Both of us did. I forget what I got. He got Monster Party. And I think I ended up playing it more than he did. It just... Well, at least once I got past that stupid pumpkin ghost.
Please don't pick on me.
And then he just proceeds to completely kick your ass.
Yeah, he is a really early difficulty spike. It's just some of the bosses are really just like slap fights, real wars of attrition, and that one is one of the most attrition-y. And you fight him on the first freaking stage. What gives with that?
Don't know, but then there was the one where you could just stay there forever unless you knew what to do.
Watch Our Dance, or however that one. The Dancing Zombies, yes.
Yep. Now, one thing I did when we were putting together the retro horror book was I wrote the Monster Party article and put together an entire boss gallery, and that complete with their changes from the original prototype.
Awesome.
So it's like the pumpkin ghost was originally an ape from Planet of the Apes riding a horse.
Yeah, with the Statue of Liberty, cutesy version of the Statue of Liberty in the background too.
Yep. And the pitcher plant was originally more like Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, it looked roundier, right? Mm-hmm. And my favorite is the spider, who is gruesome-looking head with legs on it, which is very likely a reference to The Thing.
Yeah.
or as it says, Body X, apparently. I think that was a Japanese title for the thing or whatever.
Form X from the Wandering Planet.
Ah, yes. Yes. And the Grim Reaper said... Exactly. And the Grim Reaper, which said hell, was just an outright xenomorph.
Yep.
Which might have been the most blatant ripoff of all of them. So I can understand why that one has changed at least.
Yeah, and then there was the reference to the manga The Bug Boy. Rolls Royce. Remember him?
Yes. His name is Royce and he rolls. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize there was a manga.
Yeah, it was by Hideshi Hino. I think that's how you pronounce it. And then, of course, one of my favorites is always the Pharaoh head. That's like, oh boy, Mark Soup.
Mark Soup. Yep.
And, if you're just looking at the regular characters in the stages, there's that one lake stage. And you have what look like these giant shark fins going through the water, and they leap out, and there's a tiny little shark wearing these giant shark fins.
That's adorable. I do remember. Really, the game is mostly very... except for the infamous stage change in the middle, where everything gets all melty and bloody and whatnot. And the sole boss in stage 6 is really fucking nightmarish looking. I don't know how that got past the censors. My theory is that the censors couldn't reach or beat that level. I don't know.
Yeah. Probably
Good old chameleon, man.
That was a weird boss.
Yeah, like, it really does actually legitimately look like something I remember from an actual nightmare.
You know what's an actual nightmare, though?
What's that?
The stage itself. Stupid maze stage.
That is definitely the worst part of the game. I think it also doesn't help that the quote-unquote music track is really shrill, and it's not even really a music track, it's just like ambient crashing noise and like a siren going off like that, and yeah, that is definitely the worst part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Which
is why I say, due in part, that this is a 7 out of 10 game. It's mechanically not so polished, and it has that bad level in it, but the game's just got so much heart. It's hard not to.
I think Nintendo is cracking down mainly on religious references.
Yeah, the blood kind of went over there.
Oh, that and nudity.
Exploding head.
So.
And, well, they did take out part of... They did take out the nude ladies from Golgo 13, but they did at least leave in the part with the window. So there was that.
Mm-hmm. And Prime, which is the boss you're mentioning that was referenced to Toragaran?
You know what? What is Toragaran? Oh, that's the Sorry I'm Dead thing!
Oh, really?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm
right. That's right.
I'm going to have to look that up later.
Yes, definitely.
So, anyway, let's take a break for a second and just discuss our characters here that we have. Well, if anyone's not familiar with mine, that's the ghost of Old Man Graves from the Atari 2600 game Haunted House. Mike?
Yep. Don't steal his urn.
No.
That is Firebrand, the protagonist from the really awesome SNES game Demon's Crest, which I guess you could say is technically Gargoyle's Quest 3, but it's notably darker than the first two. At any rate, it is a distant spin-off of Ghosts and Goblins / Ghouls and Ghosts, and it is a great game. Go play it.
Yeah. And Rusty?
My icon or avatar is one of the random zombies you shoot in SNK's Beastbusters. A side-scrolling sort of light gun, but not a light gun game on the Neo Geo. That's a hoot. It's a good time.
Actually, didn't that one predate the Neo Geo?
I'm not sure, actually.
Hey, Eris, how's it going?
Let me see. When was? Oh, and hey, Eris, what up? when was the game released? I do remember seeing Beastbusters in the arcade, and it looked so fantastically creepy and gruesome. I think actually when I saw it, I was a little scared to actually play it, so I never approached it until later. But it is, yeah, I know. It was magnificently violent, and
it was a light gun shooter game as originally made. Yeah, I forgot it was actually constructed as one, but I don't think I've ever seen it since. I've seen it just where you move use a joystick to move your cursor.
I gotta admit, I've never seen it in arcades at all.
Yeah,
I not only have seen it in arcades, but I've also seen its sequel in arcades. If you can believe it had a sequel called Beastbusters Second Nightmare. In fact, I was in this video game store that actually had Second Nightmare playable in it. It had some arcade games as well. And I gotta go back to that place, see if it's still active. It's one of the very few games that was released on Super Neo Geo 64, very ill-fated system, and it has a real monster of a light gun with a hell of a rattle on it. Feels very chunky, and it's a cool game. Very, very, very cool duo of games. Very, very bloody. Very
well. Apparently, in 2014, there was also an iOS or Android game that was a free-to-play download. It's Beastbusters featuring King of Fighters. Which
really?
Oh wow! Holy shit!
I'm gonna have to find something on now. Because what?
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I would. So like, Athena Asamiya can, psycho ball zombies' heads off or something. Is that the type of game we're talking about? I am on board for that. If that's what it's all about. So, and furthermore, a game by the name of Beastbusters Dark Arms was released for my favorite non-Nintendo port. Short-lived, but all too awesome Neo Geo Pocket Color. It was kind of a Zelda-esque action adventure, and it's also a very cool game. Definitely worth playing.
Nice. There's more Beastbusters than you realized, huh?
yeah, that is more than I intended to talk about, but it is an interesting series. I mean, it's always neat to talk about any properties that aren't strictly fighting games, so because it became their thing after a while.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
We are talking horror games tonight. Not Splatterhouse, not Castlevania, not Ghosts and Goblins. We already covered over those, even though some Splatterhouse discussion has already snuck in. But we're talking about all the other ones that we can squeeze into about 3 hours.
It's a rando horror night, yeah.
Yeah.
So to speak. And I just poorly transitioned Monster, for example.
You're cutting out pretty bad right now, Mike.
Oh my god. Is this like a fucking lemon? God damn it. Test. 1, 2. Maybe I need to get another Samson. This sucks. Fuck.
See, Rusty, like I said, Mike works blue.
Yeah. Okay, so I turned that thing on. That's the noise suppression's maybe not it after all. Maybe there's other... God damn it. Hey, you guys somewhere else. I'm going to try and fix this.
Well, Brandon, we haven't mentioned Resident Evil yet, but it could be coming.
We did touch upon RE5 briefly, at least.
Very briefly. In relation to Countdown Vampires.
That is true, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this. Even though I never encountered Beastbusters in the arcade, there was one other horror-like game that kept showing up. I can't tell you how many times I ran into this one, which actually kind of surprises me in hindsight. Chiller.
Oh, Jesus.
I've never seen a live one. I've seen Crossbow a number of times, which I think is the same people, but...
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that one I never saw. I've seen Cheyenne, I've seen Chiller, but never Crossbow.
Yeah.
But Chiller popped up in just some of the strangest places sometime. I even found it in a restaurant once.
Okay, that's what type of restaurant was this?
All you can eat guts.
Apparently so. Wow.
It was the house of steak and torture porn.
Apparently, yeah.
I don't remember, but I just remember playing it. It was like, okay, this is messed up, but I'm enjoying myself.
I mean,
I've never
really
seen a
isn't
screenshot of that. I've never seen a screenshot of that game that makes it look appealing in any way, shape, or form. To be honest, it's just like, hey, I'm shooting up someone's sex dungeon. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you can actually select some of the other stages to start with if you don't like that one.
Okay.
Like
You don't start. You work your way up to the sex dungeon.
Yeah.
Now, actually, you start out on the sex dungeon. The weird thing is,
you could select stages. I'm not sure.
Maybe only in some versions. The strange thing is, one of the levels is more like a much more like cheesy old school haunted house with like floating Dracula heads and this like cheesy piano music playing and like Scooby-Doo ass all zombies chasing around like
a ghost video.
Yeah, like a ghost video. Yes, excellent reference. It's very weird how tonally light that one is compared to all the let's gorily shoot up these bodies and make it look like a snuff video sort of fucking stages that the other ones are.
Or like the graveyard where the chick pops out of the ground, you can blast her shirt off.
Yeah, and then her head and live.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
Now, Ray's curious if we all consider Castlevania 2 to be a horror game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. It has a different atmosphere from every other Castlevania, and hey, that's another game that actually says hell in it. Step into the shadows of the Hell House as per its prologue text. So, spicy. But, yeah, I always found it just a little bit creepy, especially, whenever, like, at least as a kid, I always found it somewhat unsettling whenever it turned to night and then the towns, all the people were gone and all the buildings were completely closed. You only had these weird, shaggy-haired green zombies roaming. And I always found that a little unnerving for some reason.
The day-night cycle is a pretty effective fear. Yeah, that's a pretty effective horror. For sure, I would 100% agree.
They would have been scarier if they jumped like originally planned.
Oh, really now?
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, though, too, is like I think there's been some like recent like the game Castlevania 2 is like kind of got like a better reputation nowadays, but I think that like people have tried to kind of like come around to it. Some people think it was just something that like because AVGN didn't like it, everybody didn't like it. But when I rented that game as a kid, I was like, what is going on? Like, you needed a guide. It's Friday, like same thing with Friday the 13th. I think Friday the 13th. If you now that I'm not 12 and I know what I'm supposed to do, and like it's a little different. I have the internet in front of me, but like certain games were just so obtuse back in the day.
Yeah, they were.
That they weren't. It's not some recent trend. No. Like it was not enjoyed at the time for a reason. Like I mean, the most complicated game I think I had at the time was Mappy. I mean. And you want me to understand, and you want me to go to like some like side of a lake and hold a rock and pick my balls. I don't know what the fuck was going on, but
actually, I'm going to be honest. To do in Friday the 13th. I mean, I know there's a bunch of things. I just never really bothered to learn it. I still don't really care for that game. I'll be completely honest.
I don't blame you.
I mean, only heard about half of what you said, Mike.
Okay, the weird thing is, this is definitely Discord fucking up because I actually put on a sound bar in my mic in my system settings, and it's receiving everything that I'm saying. So something about Discord's being fucky. I don't know what exactly. Maybe I'll. Okay, you guys talk. I'm going to bail for a bit from the Discord application, and I'll be right back on, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty.
All right. Yeah, Prime, I didn't actually have Nintendo Power to help me with Castlevania 2. I had my friend Bromley. He'd already finished it by the time I got a copy, so...
And hey, since Prime's on, and like he can actually hear me, I just want to say Dude, thank you for your support throughout the years. You've been a super solid supporter, reposting everything I do, and I try to do the same by you. So thanks 100%. Like, I want to make sure that everybody knows that like I'm grateful when people do that sort of thing for me. It's not something I take for granted. So shout out and much love.
Okay, Rusty, message received. I'll start reposting your stuff more.
Everybody else start reposting for me to give a shit about you, for me to acknowledge your dirty little faces, you little mongrels and urchins.
I just thought liking them would be enough.
No, of course not. Yeah, it's a weird thing too, because like social media is what it is, but like the people who do support, you recognize certain names over time, and I'm like, man, his stuff is phenomenal. Like, the funny thing is that like 90% of the time, if I'm looking up an old obscure game and I need character reference, it's almost always his sprite work that pops up.
Oh, we've used Prime sprites actually as part of our backgrounds before too. In fact, Prime's been on a few of our earlier streams.
Oh yeah, you have to. I mean, he's like there's few people who've kind of like filled in the gaps on certain costume parts and stuff like that. But he really kind of did a lot of the first steps.
Oh yeah. And on top of that, Prime is also very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to like brawlers. So much that when we were putting together a list of people to come in and participate in the brawler roundtable we had, his name was on top of the list.
Nice. Yeah, actually that's another plug. But I did the beat 'em up book for Hardcore Gaming 101.
Yeah.
That was a fun one too, because that one the fun thing is with these covers, I started I kind of wanted to get away from doing like a full something on the back that was continuation or just like here's a blurb. Like, we started doing more like parodies of like famous game magazine ads. The horror one, actually, the second one has a Tales from the Crypt type background. But the beat 'em up one, I did like a fake restaurant ad, a menu that was called like Trashies, because of course you find in every game you kick a trash can and find a turkey in there.
Mm-hmm.
Good old floor chicken.
Yep, or oil drum meat.
Yep.
Also, on a side note, on the back of the Bride of Retro Horror, I do like how you actually included the cover of the original book.
Yes. Yep. I wanted to do something with that character. I kind of want to make him my own like horror host of some kind for a game thing at some point, but I have too many projects as it is. So,
speaking of which, you may have noticed a change.
Totally Rad, dude. Wait, we're not talking Totally Rad on the NES.
No. But there's your boy now, Rusty.
On the YouTube. Oh, I'm trying to get the YouTube feed up. Yeah. Where am I here? Oh yeah, there we go. Nice.
Mm-hmm. But yes, Ray, Prime does make amazing sprites. I'll tell you a little story, though. I knew Prime before I actually knew Prime. That is to say, I knew of him. I was an avid reader of EGM back in the 90s, and I remember seeing their letter art they'd post. And I just remember seeing this one piece that had Sonic and Tails, but they were hanging out with Blaze from Streets of Rage, Tyrus from Golden Axe, and Carla from Alien Storm. That got me. Carla.
Yeah, nice. Now that is a really far reach, I approve.
It's like, no one ever references Alien Storm. Who is this person? And then, the years went on, and I lost the issue, and I still remember the art, and when Prime found it sometime later and posted it, I was just like, oh, that was you! And of course, Prime has done the artwork for pretty much all of my books.
Nice.
So, everything from memoirs all the way up through the more recent ones like Digital Archaeology and Eating Candy in Outer Space. I think Kate said shilling was good. Yes, my books are still on sale. Thank you.
Buy my book.
Yep. I'll go all critic on you if I have to.
Yeah, do that more.
And you can get digital copies of all four for just $20. Just contact me directly. Use West Mansion's site submissions address. Hint, hint. If you don't want the physical ones. But anyway. Yeah, so I'm sure all of you have seen that the background has changed. And now we're showcasing Rusty's art. So, yeah, you don't even need to guess who I am. Everyone should know who Mike is. But,
yeah.
Rusty? You want to go into detail a little more about your Crypt Keeper?
So yeah, this is the guy on the back cover of Retro Horror 2. And I got to use like the EC Comics font and the whole thing. But yeah, he's just kind of like my horror host for video games thing I had drawn just as a fluke. He almost was the front cover of Volume 2. But for Volume 2, I was really starting to get into giallo and deeper cut horror films. And I really wanted to do something palette-wise that was beyond what I usually do. So it's all orange, green, and yellow, very intense. Like paranoia cut color.
You still there, Rusty?
Power.
Ah, there you are. You kind of blanked out.
So yeah, the front cover is... Yeah, the front cover is the girl from Night Trap, the singer, about to be beheaded by the Scissor Man from Clock Tower. So, because that's what retailers want. They want like, hey, let's get those money characters. But you have the other, like you have like Freddy and the other ones to kind of catch the eyes. But again, too, the site's called Hardcore Gaming 101 for a reason.
Yep.
One of my best accomplishments, and I tell Kurt this all the time, like one of the highlights in my quote unquote career is I made a retail product that features elevator action returns on the front cover.
Yes, you did.
Because that game rules.
I don't know anyone who has ever played elevator action returns that doesn't walk away wowed. It's an absolute good of video gaming, I'm convinced.
Yeah.
And Prime has a point there with what he said about your artwork.
Well, thank you.
Very much so, yes.
And it's like
again, I'm still agog that we have someone who's as talented as a guest on this little rinky-dink operation. Okay, that's putting Rob down.
No, it's fun. It's fun. Yeah, like, Rob's been a good fan and a customer for a while. So, like, it was like, yeah, dude, like we're on the same wavelength, and that's what matters most. I think,
Yes.
Like I think, I tell people too, because like I don't do this full time. Like I have a day job and wife and kid and all that. But like the main thing is like with clients I've got, and I have too many, but it's more like I work with the right people and projects than like the money. Like it's more about that, and that hopefully that comes through with everything I do. So
yeah, exactly.
I think so.
And me, Mike, you're not. I'm not offended by what you said. Just so you know, I mean,
okay.
We are one of the tiniest channels on YouTube. Okay, we haven't even cracked 300 subscribers yet.
I'm sure there's even tinier than yours, so no need to worry.
Undoubtedly. But what's interesting is the amount of talent we've actually had come on over time on these streams.
That's a good point. Like you mentioned Derek earlier.
Yeah, Derek from Stop Skeletons from Fighting. We've had talented Atari 2600 and 7800 homebrew programmers in the forms of John from Champ Games and Bob DiCrescenzo. I can't pronounce his name right now. Kurt's been on here himself. We've had Ken from Sega 16. We've had Prime, of course.
Oh, Ken's great. I like him.
Oh yeah, cool, very cool dude.
Very nice guy. Yes.
And Rusty, you're just the you're the latest.
Well, the funny thing is though too is like whenever I meet people and like just treat it like I meet I've seen Johnny Cage all the time, which is weird.
Wait, you mean Daniel Facina?
And his brother, yeah, Raiden.
Carlos. Shit.
One of my last shows. I think it had been a while, and I think Daniel kind of forget who I was, but his brother. We started talking about like '90s Golden Harvest kung fu movies, and
nice.
I didn't know. I swear to God, I did not know this, but the Johnny Cage, Raiden, and the actor of Liu Kang in the first Mortal Kombat, they're all in Drunken Master 2. I was like,
yeah, Wilson Pack, yes, he was one of the two.
He's got that he's got that suit. He's like real tight. And this is not gonna be. I'm trying not to come on him too much hard, but he's like real svelte. in that suit and looks like $1,000,000. That sounds
Yeah.
like, oh snap. But like, I don't. But like, we started talking about like Laura Carl Young, the director, and like we started talking. So like, I stood there for like 20 minutes talking with Raiden from Mortal Kombat about director Laura Carl Young's whole thing and 8-diagram whole fight, and like I think that like he appreciated that. Like that's what whenever I've met somebody like notable of some kind, I'm just kind of like, hey, what are you into? Let's just talk about it, and it's fine. We're all just people at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Totally.
It's like I've got to interview a whole bunch of people over time, and it's I've actually been amazed at a lot of the interactions I've had. Interviewing some of the key people involved in Splatterhouse, whether it's the original game or the sequels. There was I've interviewed David Crane, Howard Scott Warshaw, Yuzo Koshiro, and
oh wow.
And this was kind of a one-off thing, but I was so thrilled that it happened. But I got to interview Sean from White Zombie.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
And she was totally cool, too.
Like my 90s crush. Nice.
Yeah, mine, too.
Both of you, yes.
That was a running joke with my friends for a while about me and Sean.
I was just talking about Black Sunshine on Blue Sky last night. That riff is tight.
Oh yeah,
it's just a good song.
That is a song that. Well, okay. Honestly, I don't drive anywhere near as much as I used to anymore because of the liver disease I have. It gives me issues.
Yeah.
But back when I was driving, that was a bad song for me to listen to if I was driving. That pedal would go down to the floor.
Well, actually, going back to the horror thing.
Yes,
I was a number of years ago. I was at Steel City Con, which is in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. So Tom Savini was also there.
Nice.
From what I hear, you either get two Toms. This was the good Tom, though. He just was nice, just like nicest, coolest, sweetest guy. Like I was lucky to get that. But yeah, of course, the Monroeville Mall and Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if we necessarily want to talk about Dead Rising or not.
Oh, holy shit! I didn't write that down. I'm totally up to talk Dead Rising.
I was just going to throw that as a wild card because the original Dead Rising is one of my top 5 experiences in games ever. I love that game. I haven't played the remake.
It's a great one. I fucking love it.
And I think that like when it first came out, people were so reticent to accept the conceit that you're going to die. Like, and like, once you realize, like, it's Groundhog Day, you're supposed to be getting better and better, and then it just becomes a whole thing. But like, Frank West is such an amazing character. I love that game so much.
Yeah, I recall that, like, the conceit of, like, you're very likely to die, but you can carry Frank's experience over to the beginning of your next run. That was actually quite similar to what Capcom did for their 5th Breath of Fire game, Dragon Quarter. That, the conceit that, you get to learn the mall more and what's happening and when with all the different timing events, see how many survivors you can save, how many psychopaths you can stop and whatnot. And I feel like I'm pretentious when I say something like this, but Dead Rising does have quite a few mechanical flaws to it, to be sure. But I think that if it were any less flawed, it would be less memorable, too. That sounds very pretentious coming out of me, but like I really don't know how better to put it. It's just, it was real lightning in a bottle how the first Dead Rising worked out. And the sequels just kind of miss what made the first game as fantastic as it did. Although I do like Dead Rising 2, to an extent. It does feel like bigger, glitzier, dumber than the first, but like I still I still had enough fun with it, even if it did maybe in some ways feel a little bit watered down from the first game's hard edge. But I never got around to 3 or 4 since I heard that they were not good. I especially hear 4 is terrible.
It's so sloppy, and like there's a glitch on it where like you can't if you start a secondary mode, it will crash your game on PlayStation 4.
Geez.
And it's like, yeah, it's but like the thing that like with the first one that like I think that like because I really got into it and I was like, man, every boss, every psychopath is like a commentary on America, on how like it treats veterans.
And considering what, like, I don't want to give away too much of the game's hand, but considering what Carlos's motivation is, it's like, holy Christ, this funny zombie game really goes fucking hard and brutal with what it's trying to say here. And
it was like a good Romero zombie movie show. Like it's such
exactly.
I love that game so much. And again, too, people, the time you couldn't hang with a gimmick. I understand that, but like, I'm glad this. I mean, it's 4 entries later. Like, it did okay, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I haven't said much here because I've never played any Dead Rising game.
I figured that's probably not up your alley, but I am at least amazed that Capcom did manage to make a game with zombies that was extremely similar from... Not similar. Jeez. Different. That's the very opposite. Jesus. That was extremely different in like every possible way from their other series that had zombies and had become very popular a decade prior.
Ghosts and Goblins.
Oh, okay. I guess that was a decade prior to Resident Evil also.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, what was that?
I'll say maybe every 10 years they do something with zombies. It becomes huge.
What did they do in 2016? I think that was kind of a bad year for them. But did they have anything with zombies in that? Shit, this is too much to look up now. But
well, they had a good run anyway.
Well, they got better. They had crappy. Like early to mid 2010s, but then they kind of pulled their head out of their ass, and while they're not quite the dynamo they were back in the 90s and 2000s, they're actually in quite a bit of a better place than most of the old guard of video games, let's say, who have usually lost their way here or there. But this isn't we're supposed to talk about horror games, not the weird state that games are in today. Although I could say a few things, but
let me just say
I think
this.
I don't want to go too far into Resident Evil, but of course, like, I remember who I was with. I remember what I was doing, where I was when I played Resident Evil for the first time, and the dog breaking into the window.
Yes.
One of the greatest moments. One of the greatest like proof of concept that horror can work in video games to me. The other thing, to this day, that song that plays when you go into like the center area in Dead Rising, and if the inmates are bumping that hip hop song,
well, he ain't my boy, but the brother is heavy.
Oh my god, that unnerves me so much because I'm like, god damn it, they're back. Like,
yeah, those guys are bastards to say the least. Although that track's a legit banger. It's known as Gone Guru. I will post it in the chat for everyone to hear. Legitimate horror, but like, wow, this kicks. This slaps, as the kids say.
Brandon, are you telling me they changed the dog scene in Resident Evil in the remake?
I think Brandon might be referring to the fact that Dead Rising actually did have a remake released very recently, which I haven't gotten around to playing. I like the original too much. I just kind of have no interest in playing it, honestly, because like I said about the series kind of losing its way as it went on. Although there is this one channel who covers a lot of Capcom games that I really like, by the name of The Sphere Hunter, and its host Susie. She said that the remake of Dead Rising actually does do some things right, some quality of life changes that she approved of, but there are also other things that changed that she did not, that being that I don't believe Frank is voiced by TJ Rotolo anymore, his original VA, and that's kind of sacrilege to me because, like, yes, I also love Frank a lot, and Rotolo just fucking nailed his character out the gate, and, like, it is I'm surprised I give a shit about story and characters in video games sometime, because I know that Rob usually doesn't. No offense intended. But
Look, are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president?
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need to get into playing anything, and that's usually all that I need. But I appreciate when a game does well with its story, and I agree with Rusty that Frank is just so perfect in the original Dead Rising that Dead Rising 4 is just such an assassination to his character from what I've read. So that's I really don't want to touch that. And the remake also kind of changes some things about Frank that make me very wary of approaching it. But I know it exists. Oh, wait. Brandon was talking about the Resident Evil remake. Fuck. Yes. All right, well, scratch the last 2 minutes of my ranting there. So,
well, let me say what I was going to say, though. The last new horror game I played that was actually big console thing was Lollipop Chainsaw.
Oh yeah,
nice.
That's a fun game.
I just played the remaster of that, the repop version of it. So yeah,
how is that?
It's honest. I think that they had some issues at first, but when I played through it, it was fine. The funny thing is, I did notice little changes that she doesn't say creamy as much, and I'm like, you know what? That's probably for the best. That's kind of now I'm now I'm 49. You just turned 18. This is weird now, but this is a bad place. But yeah, I mean, it's very solid. I mean, it's a nice 4-hour game. But I love it. Nice. Going back to 7 out of 10s. I love me a 7 out of 10 game that doesn't take a lot of time, and I'm like, yeah,
yeah. All right, totally. Kate, have a good night.
Yeah, see you later, Kate. Thank you so much for stopping in. I unfortunately never played Lollipop Chainsaw, but if we did want to jump off from the game's publisher, Grasshopper Manufacture, one of my favorite games of all time is one I would very much consider horror, psychological and or mindfuck horror particularly. I don't know if either of you guys are familiar with Killer 7
Vaguely familiar.
I've never played it. It's been in my backlog forever, because that's one of those Suda 51 is just I don't know if David Lynch is the right comparison, but he's like an MTV David Lynch.
That's a great way of putting it. I love Killer 7.
I want people give him money to do whatever he wants, kind of thing,
Yes, and I envy, but mostly very much respect that. I want to say that he's one of the few legitimately punk video game directors we have left. I really don't know how better to put it, but I'm a huge fan of Killer 7 and the No More Heroes series. I keep meaning to get around to the Silver Case someday. That's actually readily available on Steam now, but at any rate, Killer 7 is one of the most disturbing games I've ever played, and it's usually it's not viscerally so. In fact, it does have this somewhat lo-fi, cel-shaded look to it that I like quite a bit, but it goes to some very creepy places. It has a lot of weird political commentary between how America does things and how Japan does things, but there's also just some moments of just abject terror. I don't want to spoil too much, but what happens with Andre Almeida, what Curtis Blackburn's whole fucking deal is, everything about the hotel near the end of the game, and the sort of drastic revelations that reveals. A lot of the game's meat is in its plot, so I really don't want to spoil too much. I will say its gameplay is pretty weird, but it was very consciously designed to be the way it is. It's you move along literally on rails, although there are several points where you can diverge in your pathway. So for the most part, there's no chance of really getting lost, but when you have to fight, you hold a button to actually get into a first-person shooter mode, and it does kind of become a gallery. But it's really not an FPS like in the way that like Doom or Halo or whatever is. And it plays weird at first, but you get used to it if you play it enough. I don't want to say much else. Rusty, if you have an interest in Killer 7, I recommend you get on that soon. I don't think you'll.
I definitely will. Yeah. Yeah, because like that, like I think that like I've got Killer is Dead from Steam because they keep dropping that thing for like $2.
I've heard that one's a lot more mixed as far as Grasshopper titles
I
are
think
concerned.
that I think there's a certain point where like the gameplay is kind of just okay in most of his games, and I think that like that's where like you couldn't forgive as much. Shadows of the Damned is another one, along with like Lollipop Chainsaw, where like
Big boner. That's I think I've only played a demo of Shadows, but I know it's gotten a re-release lately. I've been meaning to get around to that one. I've heard it is mostly fun, although I think like one of the later, if not the final boss, is like really terrible to fight, but I don't know how much of a deal breaker that should be. I don't know. I think that's what I remember hearing anyway. I've meant to get to it.
I had that game for a little while, but it didn't really click with me.
That's fair. I like a lot of Grasshopper games, like Rusty, like you said, gameplay-wise, they do tend to be more mixed than how their style tends to be received. But honestly, I just kind of appreciate how gonzo they always are. Like, this is a fucking Grasshopper game, and it's not going to let you forget it. And I just do like how distinctive they are in that sense.
Yeah, that made me think that I was thinking about it a while back, and it's like Lollipop Chainsaw. The game kind of feels like the love child of Splatterhouse 2010 and Oni-Chanbara.
Not a bad way of putting it.
That's another one I played shortly before I got out of modern console gaming.
Yeah,
I don't want to admit how many Oni-Chanbara games I've played and owned, but it's a lot.
Hey, no shame here. I actually never really got into that series, but I feel like I should play at least one in my lifetime.
They're what they are, but like, and it's also like it's kind of like in Metal Gear Solid 5, there's like the whole excuse for Quiet having to be nude.
Oh yeah, shamed of your words and deeds or whatever, and then like you have the Virgin Kojima trying to make an excuse for it, and then you have the Chad Yoko Taro talking about 2B from Nier Automata, and he just said, I like hot women. I like women with awesome asses or whatever. And he was just being honest about it.
And like Aya from Oni-Chanbara, like she is supposed to like absorb the blood from the zombies through her spores. I'm like, you know what? That's BS, but good for you for trying. Good hustle.
I gotta admit, it's a heck of an outfit, though.
Oh yeah, well, no denying there. Yeah, someday I will hopefully get on one. Whatever one is like easiest to play on PC. Maybe I'll go for whatever that is.
The most recent one is very solid. It's a very solid, again, 7 out of 10 game. But like for like a simple series game, it's well polished and it's not too fan servicey. Like you won't, it's one of those things that like if somebody comes in the room.
Unfortunately, Rusty, you cut off a bit again, but I think I know where you're getting into the dead or alive effect, so to speak.
The funny thing is, though, too, is like the worst experience I've had with that is like, I think it was Red Dead Redemption of all games. Again, too, it's you wouldn't think that's a game that has anything, but my wife came in the room and started talking about something or whatever, and it's a scene where like this El Jefe general starts having sex with a peasant girl on a table.
That, yeah, triggered that memory. That's right. Whoopsie doodle.
Yeah, I was not ready for that one.
Thank you, Rockstar.
Speaking of that, there is something we could talk about in relation to horror because I couldn't get into the original Red Dead Redemption to save my life.
That's right.
Undead Nightmare, I ate that shit up. That was just, I got so into Undead Nightmare. I ended up buying just a single release of it. Got rid of my copy of the actual game just to keep that.
I know people swear. I'm only a Red Dead Revolver person, to be honest.
Wow. A rare breed.
I kind of like the straight up spaghetti westernness of Red Dead Revolver. it didn't really overstay its welcome, and Redemption was just fine. I didn't stick around for the Undead Nightmare, but when I was doing this, when I was doing P swaps as like a general site, a very talented artist named Team Smithy did one for Undead Nightmare. I'll have to see if he can post it, but it was phenomenal. But yeah, I know people love it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a sucker for pretty much anything Weird West, and Undead Nightmare qualifies.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you play that recent? Did you play that recent one that's like a it's like a RE4 perspective, but it's basically Hellboy.
Evil West, is that the one?
I've
meant to get around to Evil West. I actually have it on Steam, but I just never got around to playing it yet.
Oh, that answers my question. It's on Steam. I could play it then.
Yeah, it's usually on sale on Fanatical, but it's like it's kind of like, honestly, if you treat it as a Hellboy game, it's great. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
That is a 7 out of 10 ass game.
Absolutely.
But again, we need more games like that, in my opinion.
It's occurred to me that almost my entire, everything I've ever liked in gaming basically qualifies as a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. Like I said, that's why I need more games like that. Like we don't need everything to. Hang on, what's the analogy I'm trying to scratch up here? Someone give me a somewhat only okay RPG for the Super Nintendo.
Rusty?
Chrono Trigger? I'm just kidding.
Mike, I agree with you on that.
God. Okay, I was going to say not everything needs to be a Chrono Trigger. We need more games that are like... I don't know. Let's just say Secret of Evermore. I know. Feelings are mixed with Secret of Evermore. So, Jesus Christ, Mike, why do you keep going out of your way to kick Chrono Trigger and the Nards? It's becoming a weird obsession with you. What the fuck? Hey, Brandon, I love her. I'm sorry.
Look, I respect. I mean, like it's like I don't want to hate on AAA games. I respect like I would say I played Ghost of Tsushima a couple years ago, and
that's a great one.
I would say probably that's overall, as far as polish and everything, that's probably the best video game I've ever played. Is it my favorite? Yes. Not at all.
No,
like I loved it, but I'm gonna go back and I'm going right back to Mad Max 2015. I'll go around and pick up scrap with my little hunchback friend for hours versus revisiting Ghost of Tsushima.
I need to get around to that one. I have also heard it's far from perfect, but what it does pretty good.
What, Mad Max?
Yes.
Honestly, it's close to my favorite of all time right now. I love that game so much. It's a weird thing. Like you have to kind of be in the mindset for it. It's Just Cause mixed with Arkham Knight.
Yeah, I'm up for that. I like both of those games. Well, I like Just Cause 2 a lot, not the original, but yes.
No. Yeah.
I'm going to say there is a mutual friend of mine and Mike's who is a huge Mad Max fan in general, but he loves that game.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Devil was a fan of that one too. I should have figured, but shit, I got to get on this one now. Do I actually own it? Let me see. I probably got it as some sort of like left field bundle or whatever. Yeah, Mad Max. I need 32 gigs for it, but it's on here. I think
I actually tried it out when I was over to his place once.
Oh, awesome!
But the only Mad Max game I've ever really put any time into, which is not much, was the NES game.
That one's not good.
No, it's not.
Where it's more like a side-scrolling shooter kind of car shooter.
Yeah, basically you drive around the wasteland and basically stuff is shooting at you all the time, and you're trying to shoot back until you run out of fuel or whatever. I don't know.
Wasn't that one made by fucking Mindscape or whoever? What a name of quality, and by that's quality with a K, mind.
Now, Outlander I've heard of, but I've never played it.
Yeah, I have. I might have tried out Outlander at some point. It didn't seem excellent, but it seemed less bad than the NES Mad Max, so maybe I should fiddle with it more at some point.
Also, Sharon, are you just naming random horror games now?
I mean, I never got around to Seventh Guest. I could say a lot about Devil May Cry, although I would argue that only the first DMC really qualifies as horror, as the series found more of a more over-the-top action direction. Yeah. It did kind of move away from how DMC, the first DMC was originally a Resident Evil spin-off. So that explained why you were in this big castle. It gets creepier the longer you stay there. But the series found its own direction more so 3 and onward. Of course, we don't talk much about 2, but that is what that is.
I will say, Mike, do you know who is a big Seventh Guest fan?
Carrie?
Or as we call her, Betty. Yes, you're right.
Okay. I think I remember hearing that. Are you gonna add that in VOD? I'm sorry.
Well, it's already gone out live, so thanks, Mike. Out here.
Is that the one that's? Sorry, isn't that the one that's like, kind of like a proto Resident Evil with like the door opening and the butterflies?
No, that was Mansion of Hidden Souls.
So that's probably like, I think that like I had a Sega CD and I had rented that, and it was, I do remember like the whole door effect that Resident Evil lifted being pretty scary, back then. I was like, oh no, it's poorly FMV doors, look out.
Now, Seventh Guest, I think, was on PC originally, and then it went to maybe 3DO or CDI or something. And it's cool looking. There's definitely a lot of ghosts in that game. I can tell you that.
I never got... I think that was a game my brother played occasionally, and we had no idea what we were doing in it. I might be able to get at it better with the eyes that I have now, but isn't there like a really infamous puzzle in that game or something that's like, Sierra Hitbook bullshit tier or whatever?
I think Kurt actually wrote about that and the sequel in the Guide to Classic Graphic Adventures.
Right, that sounds right.
And I think he did mention that puzzle.
Yeah, probably some such. I'm not very fan. I'm not usually a huge fan of the bumblefuck around for several hours until you just give up and look up an FAQ school of puzzling. But
so that might be a good way to transition to something, because I know Rob is not too familiar with this, but Mike, I think that you are. I had never played Clock Tower until recently.
Yes.
The funny thing is, like, the first game, the same night we got Resident Evil, my friend rented the Clock Tower for the PlayStation, which is very different than the 16-bit version.
Yes.
And like, I kind of like I call these games, instead of like point and click, I call them mouse arounds, because I just kind of I just mouse around until something happens.
That's a good putting it. I like that.
But the funny thing is like, I was really stunned, and now that I'm older and I'm more versed in Dario Argento films, particularly Phenomena and Suspiria, it was like, I love this game so much. It's really, they nailed the vibe on a Super Famicom. It's like, what? How did you possibly get this so right? But that's such an effective horror title. But it doesn't seem too fact heavy. I didn't feel the need to have to run and find answers as much, which I think is a good game.
Yes. I don't think I did. I think maybe I looked up like a couple things here and there to figure out how to get the best ending, because I'm a munchkin like that. But otherwise, no, I did just kind of naturally float around in it, because it's a cool mansion to explore, and the scissor man in question has a lot of personality for a creepy little murder man. My favorite part in the game is, I don't know if you saw this, but one possible way that the scissor man can appear is that he falls down from a panel in the ceiling, and he lands on a piano, which he then steps on several times, and he creates several. Like, it's fucking hilarious. It's like, it's that is mostly a genuinely creepy game, but it's like at that moment it felt like that Human definitely knew what they were doing, what type of game they were making. And hey, speaking of Human and Suda 51, it all kind of, I forget if Suda actually worked on Clock Tower specifically. I don't think he did, but there is a bit of a relation there, at least.
Well,
but,
that Human Did This actually does explain why it ended up being so good. I mean, look at some of the other games they did at the same time. The Fireman, SOS.
Fire Pro.
And Fire Pro, yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I admit I'm not a big wrestling fan, but I know Fire Pro's reputation.
Yeah, it's a really ridiculous title to say, so I'm not sure if I have this right, but I guess like the last of that series release on the Super Famicom, I believe it was Super Fire Pro X Premium something. I think I'm missing a word in there. But I really got into that one for a while. It's a hell of a freaking wrestling game, and like I would say the best I ever played, but then they went on to make Fire Pro Wrestling Returns on the PS2, and yes, that's like that, but like there's more.
Yeah. I can't remember. That's the one. So like we're going with the Suda 51, and this is horror adjacent, but like I think that's the one on the Super Famicom where you play as the character, but like the Ric Flair type.
Oh God, yes.
The ending of this wrestling game is your character is just in his house. You hear a gunshot. Credits. You're like, what? This dude just killed himself. What? Unalived himself. YouTube. Sorry.
Yep.
But he hit the unaliver. By God.
Yep.
It's just insanely dark.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was X Premium that did that, but I think it was maybe the one like just before it that, yes, Suda 51 wrote this wrestling mode where the Ric Flair XB just ruins your entire life, and you do beat him in the ring, but it's a hollow victory, and then, yep, that's it. Like, wow. What? Like, even back then, Suda 51 was a very warped mind, and it definitely paid off for him later, but, yeah, I digress. I would also say that since it was mentioned, SOS does, I think in a way, qualify as a horror movie. It's basically the Poseidon Adventure if it were a playable video game, and that's like a disaster horror thriller, but like, you know, people die in it. I think it would qualify as at least horror adjacent, and it is pretty frightening to go around this fucked up ship that you have to do all these crazy jumps to navigate because everything's just fucking upside down. And I haven't really played it much. As Ray said, the controls are pretty iffy to work with, and it's also one of the many games I've seen Shinya Arino, the Kacho from Game Center CX play, and it seemed he had a pretty rough time of it. Like, even when you do, like, everything you're supposed to do in the game, there's, like, a sort of final platforming challenge that you need to beat to escape the ship, and that looked irascible. That looked really bullshit.
I gotta say, Mike, I wanted to love SOS in the worst way, but I just couldn't.
I understand that mechanically it is... Like, style-wise, it's 10 out of 10, but gameplay is much lower than that. So I've been intimidated into actually trying it, to be honest.
But, you know, the sequel gave us one of the greatest phrases ever.
Yeah, what was that?
How comes it that King Weens sink?
Yeah, I know there was a... I forget what the sequel is called, but I know it was for the PlayStation.
Yep.
And, I don't know much about it, but yes, it does have that nice little bit of English for us. So,
but yeah, I really wish that game had had better controls. I guess you could say. It just irritated me in the worst way.
I completely understand, but if I may jump back to Clock Tower for a bit while we're still on this human tangent,
if you want to,
I admit that I was actually scared away from Clock Tower at first, literally, because there is this jump scare that can happen where, actually, you know, it's pretty bizarre and a little bit out of tune with the rest of the game, but there's one part where Jennifer can get strangled to death by a pair of hands that pop out from a mirror, and I don't think that's strictly explained what that is, but it does play a legitimate scare chord, and I was shocked enough that I wasn't mashing the button to get the hands off me, and I died there, and I was like, okay. So then I didn't play Clock Tower again for several years until I got back to it, and that was probably, and I was better prepared mentally to get through it, and then that's and then I really got into that one from there on. But
I
can't.
Yeah, I said the rewind version's very good, and it's honestly like I don't the rewind feature itself is not like it takes her so long to move from place to place, anyways. You only have like a 10-second window. It's not that big, but there's save states, and like you can continue like at like the most recent relevant save point. You don't have to start the game over. Like it knows if you're trying to like just play. You have a life now, kind of thing. Like, but I really recommend it if you haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to the rewind version, but I would like to. It's been long enough since it's one of those games where like. If you play for enough, then you probably know what to do at a point. But some adventure games, it's been a really long time since I played, so I don't exactly remember what to do in a lot of cases. So it probably would be fresh to go through now.
There's a lot of variables here. Like things aren't always in the right place. Like there's some changes to it, or it depends on where he pops up, and like really he's kind of a proto Mr. X / Nemesis.
Hey, shit! You're right. That's totally.
Yeah, I mean.
That guy.
I would probably say Sinistar is the first of that type.
Oh yes.
And
the See You Later, Aris. If we didn't say that, sorry.
Yeah. I should probably tell you about my plans for my tombstone.
Oh, what's that?
Okay. So, here's the thing, right? It's gonna have all the usual stuff: my name, the dates, and all that. But it's also gonna have a button. When you push the button, that's when the hidden sound system comes on. And you start hearing, "Run, coward! I hunger! I live again!" And of course, the roar.
If you can do that, totally do that.
And yes, Sharon, Silent Hill, but I take it you didn't play too far into it because I don't recall there being a cabin in that game. Unless I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I played through it.
I don't remember a cabin in the first Silent Hill either. Maybe it was in the second. I don't know.
Good game, though.
I never played the first one, but the second one, of course, was like mandatory. Like that. Yeah.
And see, I never played the second one, but I played all the way through the first one.
Yeah, if I may touch upon Silent Hill, I do think the first game is really fantastic and deserves all its accolades. Actually, a game where 3D fog to obscure a lack of draw distance completely works in that game's favor. It's ironic it's not on the N64, but but yeah, that's just everything about it is just designed so well, including the obligatory mention of the school apparently being a facsimile of the school from Kindergarten Cop, which is just fucking bonkers.
It's also a game that legitimately startled me.
Yes, it legitimately startled me too, although your startling was different from mine.
Yeah. I remember I was playing a game around 2, 3 a.m. and, by myself. And I'm exploring the school. And then I heard the squeak. It's like, what was that? So I started shining the flashlight around. I saw something black just on the fringes of the flashlight. And it's like, whoa, what was that? And finally I got a good look at it. And it was like the ghost of a kid. And it was doing the squeaking. And there were more of them in there. And they didn't do anything to you, but it was just like, this is very unnerving. I think I'm going to go to bed now.
Actually, this is one of my favorite. It's one of my most major horror moments in a game is not from a horror game per se. I remember I had gotten Metal Gear Solid 2 Subsistence for the Xbox. And
very nice.
I was playing real late at night. I was pretty tired and out of it. And I got to the naked Raiden part, whatever. And
that scared the fuck out of me too, man.
Good God, like, turn off the console now. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
and then the Colonel's face is a skeleton, and then Rose's eyes are all white, and like, Jesus, this is really fucking freakish. It got so bad I couldn't even look at the screen.
I don't even now. It just like chills through my entire body. I'm like, God damn, this was terrible. It's unnerving at a degree. I'm still stunned by it. 20 years later.
And here I thought it was freaky when Psycho Mantis was like, "So, you love Castlevania?" And it's like, how did he know that? Oh, wait, this is Konami.
Well, I was always like, I feel like a running gag where I post Psycho Mantis, and he's like, "So, you like Onichan Bar? You like Onichan Bar? You like Senran Kagura? Oh, Jesus. Oh, no. You have played every Dead or Alive and unlocked every costume for Tina. Stay on my memory card, Psycho Mantis.
Boobies.
Sharon, it was back when I'd moved back into the house. So, probably a good 25 years ago now.
Gotcha.
But
I could definitely say a lot about horror and horror adjacent games that Konami has made, but I just want to say first Silent Hill is fantastic. Second Silent Hill 2, also fantastic, although I do have to admit at this point, I think I find it just a very small bit overrated because the fan base for it has become kind of insufferable, in my opinion. Like, my God, there was so much screaming about how bad the Silent Hill 2 remake was going to be. Like, they just didn't even want to give it a fucking chance, but it apparently turned out pretty well from what I understand, so, it's still a great game, don't get me wrong. I just think that maybe, I think that maybe some people have gotten a little bit too fond of it. And I would like to go on the record to say I like Silent Hill 3 more anyway. I know that's a hot-ass take, but Heather Mason is awesome. That game has some of the weirdest visuals and moments in the entire series. It's definitely not as deep as SH2 was with its setting and themes and whatnot, but I think it's a more fun ride overall. So,
you know,
I think the new one coming out too, Silent Hill F, that like, I think that it's interesting too because this one definitely seems like post Junji Ito work. So I'm really fascinated by that because I'm a big fan of Tomy, Uzumaki, Gyo, etc. So
awesome.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like Silent Hill is very surprisingly on something of an upswing after years and years of disappointment. But of course, we don't have to get into that. I just want to say that I do keep hearing Silent Hill 4, while criticized for its time, has been looked at more favorably recently. I keep meaning to get on that one, but I haven't just yet. So hopefully sometime this year, maybe.
Now, I do want to flip the script a little bit here.
Go ahead.
We haven't touched on much involving Japanese mythology and stuff like the yokai.
Oh yeah, we could do that.
Always been something I've always found really cool.
Same here.
Like, okay, this is kind of horror, kind of, sort of, but I think it basically qualifies enough for this stream. Ken Satan for the Sega Master System. Perfect example of that.
I'd say that counts. You hack up skeletons with a katana. I think it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that you called that one basically the, like if Castlevania was on the SMS, but if it was Japanese, more or less.
Like Castlevania in feudal Japan.
You got the postcard for me, right, Rob, on that one?
I've only seen the artwork. I don't have the actual postcard.
I've got, so yeah, that was one of the postcards I did for Hardcore Gaming 101's Patreon. I wasn't aware of the game until, like, you know, Kurt was like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I just picked that one at random. It is a really cool. It's a hard game, but again, save states and rewinds. You know, whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna judge you. It's a really interesting.
Ghosts causing problems with the stream tonight.
There's a degree of unknown to the yokai to me, which just makes it fascinating.
Yeah. On a side note, if you still have any of those postcards, I'd love one.
I'll see if I can track one down.
Cool.
Did you like the Black Belt game for the Sega Master System? Because I did like a Fist of the North, an obliquely Fist of the North flavored version of.
I quite like that one.
Yeah, I've actually, believe it or not, I've collected as many of the Sega-made Fist of the North Star games as I could, which basically for the games that for the time, that basically amounts to 2.
That one in Last Battle?
No, well, yeah, actually, but I was thinking more along the lines of Hokuto no Ken and Hokuto no Ken 2.
Yes, exactly.
And then, of course, Black Belt and the Last Battle.
And sorry to cut you off before Kinsaden, but two things. Brandon, I fucking love Zombie Nation.
Yes, he does.
It's maybe my favorite Kusoge ever. Like, it's not. That's also a very 7 out of 10 ass game. I like that. I keep getting to use that phrase, but
Hey,
God, it
here.
is just so fucking weird. Hey there, Fatal. I'm talking about that. Me liking Zombie Nation as much as I do. Crazy ass game. Vaguely horror-ish, although I think it's more just ridiculous than anything. I will admit that there's a little bit of a freaky atmosphere to the game, if nothing else. Like if Namakubi or the Tengu, if you're playing the Japanese version, takes enough damage and like his life bar turns to a skull, and once it gets down to 8 skulls, game over. And you're also shooting eyeballs and barfing napalm or whatever. Like I said, it's more weird, but there is a oddly unnerving atmosphere to the game at least. And 2, yes, Ray, I have played Sweet Home, and it's honestly my favorite RPG for the NES. To the extent that counts as an RPG, because it's also kind of a survival game, I guess it makes it like a really, really, really distant precursor to Fear and Hunger, although it's more merciful than that, arguably. But of course, also that Capcom made it. It is also a distant predecessor to Resident Evil. And did the stream crap out for anyone else?
I'm showing green. I'm showing green across the board here.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But yeah,
have you actually watched the movie Sweet Home?
I
did once. Yes.
I've watched it at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's pretty weirdly cool, I would say.
I actually can't play the game.
I always thought that, like, for some reason, I thought Sweet Home and House were the same thing. And, like, I'm like, man, there's no way they made a House game. Like, that would be so freaking awesome.
How familiar are you with Dr. Chaos?
I'm not familiar at all. I know of it, but...
Well,
time to
it
drop.
is...
Mike?
Oh, yep.
Go ahead.
Well, this is something that us HG101ers kind of found out semi by accident, because I believe that we were doing it for an earlier incarnation of the podcast. But, Dr. Chaos itself is kind of a weird game. Some have called it like The Goonies 2, but worse, which I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best way to characterize it, but it is kind of an acquired taste of a title. But
yeah.
Actually kind of like it. It might not even be 7 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10 at best, but it's an interesting one to play, to say the least. However, there are a few enemy designs which look quite a bit like some of the weird creatures that appear in House.
Okay.
And I also found out that that FCI and Pony Canyon, or whoever it was that made the game, they did actually make an MSX game by the name of Masashi no Goblin, I believe it was, that is more directly based off of House. Mashu no Yakata Goblin, that was it. That it shows in the intro the main character's kid getting stolen by what is clearly Big Ben, i.e. Richard Mall's character in the film. So
I was referring to Hasu, I guess, the Japanese House.
Oh shit! I thought you meant the movie starring William Catt. I'm sorry. God damn it.
No, I'm thinking like I'm familiar with House 1 and 2. Like it would be so awesome, like if like in a game you had the John Ratzenberger character, because I distinctly remember he had that business card that said electrician adventurer. Like that was his job. Yeah, because I'm actually the Fred Decker house. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, but I do know Hausu. I did see that. It's really fucking crazy. Everyone should see that.
Yes.
It's unhinged. Unfortunately, I don't think there has been a video game made on that. Maybe there's one spiritually that sort of rings on some of the tones that it does, but I think it's kind of hard to...
hopefully, you know.
Yeah, likely, yes, but it's kind of hard to kind of capture the same type of magic that film did originally, so...
I will say about Dr. Chaos, that was actually one of the earliest NES games I rented.
It's got a great cover, to be honest. Like, I get it.
Yeah. I would say the cover's almost false advertising because that cool winged skeleton thing you don't actually fight in the game. Huge false advertising.
And it's funny, way back when I actually wrote a story that incorporated elements and plot from Dr. Chaos. And since I'd never seen the last boss, I assumed that skeleton bat thing was the last boss.
Sadly, no, it was some sort of lame fire-headed lion thingy.
Yeah.
Bogus.
Mine was cooler.
It really should have been the fucking winged skeleton demon or whatever. I don't know why it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
And by the way, Rusty, you were saying about save states and whatnot for Kinsaden?
That's the only way I could possibly see getting through that game.
Nope. I don't use them.
God bless you.
I gotta say, I finished that game. I appreciate
people who can go the hardcore version, but man, that's a rough hang.
Well, I finished it back in high school, and I've been able to play through it pretty consistently ever since.
I can still 1cc Batman on the NES, and
nice.
That's my that was like the only game I had when I was like 14. So that's in my soul. That's in my top 5 of all time as well too. So
that one I've never finished, but I'll hit you with one that I did finish back then. Predator.
Ooh.
That really amazes me because I can't really make much headway in that one myself.
I'm still surprised I finished it.
I tried to play it actually this last week on a Retro Arch, yeah, no, never. I couldn't get to. I know at one point you play as a big.
Oh, big mode.
Yeah, that was that feels like it was trying to rip off Genpei Tomaden at that point.
Yeah, and big mode sucks. So
it does, yeah.
But I always call it Genpei Tomaden, but whatever way you slice it, that is one of those games that clearly I didn't play it back in the day because I didn't live in Japan. But when it was released for the PlayStation, I kind of got into that game. Which is weird when I found out that Samurai Ghost was actually the sequel to it. And I remember seeing that for rent at this little video store I used to go to. And I never checked it out.
Of
course, nice. also pass on renting Soldier Blade too, but
Well, I would say Genpei Tomaden is slightly horror-ish because you start out in hell and there are these weird eyeless jabbering heads on the floor that I always found was a really neat and creepy, striking visual. It's obviously not quite as up the horror alley as Splatterhouse is, but it does have a little bit of an unnerving tone overall. Like, the music that plays for the, I guess, side view, the overhead levels is kind of unnerving. And, you fall back down to hell if you go down a pit, and then you have to be judged by Yama or whatever. And, you might die, and it's completely random, so that bites, but I do love that game. It's weird and creepy in a way I really like.
Yeah,
it's with the horror adjacent thing, though, too. I think that, there's one, I almost want to qualify it, but it's not, and I can't justify it. Hotline Miami has... I'm
thinking of putting that on my list.
It's got immense horror elements to it. There's parts where you're... there's a point in the game where I just feel sick that I'm like, oh God, I've been doing the wrong thing. I feel bad. Yeah, and it's the whole thing with the 3 things in the mask talking to you. It uses horror elements in a very effective way.
Absolutely. It does, I think, cross over into horror occasionally because there's one bit where Jacket, quote unquote, your protagonist, as it were, I think he hallucinates that the big guy he just killed now has is really bloody and half of his face missing, and he's hallucinating him talking to him regardless of that. And Hotline Miami's legitimately disturbing. I would say it's horror enough. It's very much. I think that Cactus, the developer, outright thanked Nicholas Winding Refn, whose films had been quite an influence in that game. With Drive, of course, being his most digestible film, but like everything else Refn has made is very horror-esque, very like all this weird lighting and just this sort of overall unnerving feeling to all his work. So I would say it does count, and I'm a huge fucking fan of Hotline Miami. So
so great,
valid.
Well, let me ask you this, Mike.
What's up?
And Rusty. Would you consider certain pinball games to be horror adjacent?
Well, there was that one based on Creature of the Black Lagoon, but it was framed as like being a drive-in movie event rather than outright horror games.
Was this video pinball or actual pinball?
Oh, this is an actual solid-state pinball machine.
It's holographic pinball because it had like a hologram version of him in the table.
Well,
that's really neat.
This case, yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this.
The best video pinball games ever, the Crush trilogy.
Yes.
I think those would count as horror. Devils, especially, but Alien and Jockey Crush are also quite creepy. So, but Devil's Crush is basically a outright horror pinball game, but it's also the sort of horror that
pinball in hell.
Yeah, like that Slayer or Iron Maiden would totally embody. It totally has that fucking metal ass, like medieval high concept shredding guitar horror to it, and it has this really bitching music track that I never get tired of accompanying it. So I think it totally counts.
Mm-hmm. I can't see ever getting sick of anything in that game, except for that damn laughing skull.
Oh, fuck that guy. I hate him. If there's a way to mute him, if there's like a patch that allows me to mute him or like not even have him laugh at all, I can totally take it. Fuck you, man. Shut up. But otherwise, 10 out of 10 game.
Oh, definitely. Which do you like better out of the remaining two, Jockey or Alien Crush?
That is a very good question. I don't like them as much as Devil, but they are both great. Rusty, have you played all of the Crush pinball games?
I've played, I think, Alien and Devils. I think.
Okay.
What was the other one in this trilogy?
Oh, Jockey Crush. That one was actually released solely for the Super Famicom, not on the TG16. So,
honestly, I think that the thing that's weird with like Alien Crush is like I don't know when I'm done. It just kind of kept going for a while. Not that I'm saying I'm good at it. I'm just like, all right, do I stop now? I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, Because like with video pinball, it's always like even like Sonic Spinball. They want you to do a certain thing to move to the next level. I'm guessing that was the case. We were talking a little bit before about like how like I think the only good Addams Family game is the pinball table.
Yes.
Yeah. I can get behind that.
It's a great one. Classic.
Yeah, let's not talk about the video games.
No.
Twilight Zone pinball table is a great one too.
Yes.
And hey, didn't we discuss that a little bit in the last stream we did, Mike?
I believe we might have, yes. I forgot if any of us mentioned that it actually did license the song Twilight Zone from Golden Earring to play for a few bars in it, but I always like that touch.
But yeah, Rusty, a couple weeks ago we did a whole Twilight Zone stream.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mainly about the original show, but we also touched on the 85 show and the other ones that came and went.
In the movie.
Oh, yeah, the movie too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird looking at the roster of the film. I'm like, dang. It's too bad 3 people died. But it's still really cool to see George Miller just doing this thing. That and I think Joe Dante is kind of underrated as a director. Like,
I love Dante.
He's like John Carpenter for kids, is like how I like to put it. And every possible.
Hot take. The Howling was better than An American Werewolf in London. I'm sorry. That's just what I think.
What Howling? Was that the one Robert Picardo was in?
Yes. He was, I believe his name was Eddie Quist. He was the werewolf to kick off the plot, so to speak. And I do really like how that one episode in Voyager referenced that. That was really extra mile from Picardo there.
Because he kept his teeth from that. And he used them in that episode. Amazing.
Yes.
Oh, boy. But yeah. That was a fun stream, just talking nothing but Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. I still think I was kind of crappy on that stream, but, can't always bat 1,000.
You talked about what you knew.
Yeah, that is true, yes.
So, but let's see. What else could we talk about that's horror or horror adjacent? There's more out there. Let's see. What haven't we hit on? I know one thing we haven't hit on yet.
What's up?
House of the Dead.
That's right, I did want to mention that. The premiere, I fucking love light guns quite a bit myself. Light gun games are like for whatever physical arcades are left nowadays, I usually go for a light gun game every time I go to it. I always have, because I think they're one of the few types of games that can really only be very well experienced to fully in an actual arcade. So, and I have always loved the House of the Dead series henceforth. I do like the first two quite a bit more than what came afterward. I would say unoriginally that Hot D2, so to speak, is probably the series apex, but I do really like the first one a lot. In fact, I played the first one enough to the point that in the arcade version, I almost managed to 1cc it.
Damn.
However, the magician, the final boss, is an asshole, and I unfortunately kind of choked in the 1 yard line there. But I think I did 1cc the Saturn port. That was quite fun to do.
Actually, one of the ones that, because I still buy, I have a PlayStation. My PlayStation 3 moved out of the garage area, and I still buy games for it. But I didn't play Overkill until recently. That is a good time. And again, too, the funny thing is, it came out like in 2009, and it was definitely somebody who was just like, "Hey, we just saw Grindhouse. Let's make that."
Yes, fucking exactly.
It is all the excess of that era that, like, it's a game you definitely could not do nowadays. But it's fascinating. It was kind of like a nice like blast from the past, playing this game that is obscene as hell, uses the F word more than Goodfellas.
Yes,
and it's obscenely sexist. There's no redeeming social quality to the game, which makes it kind of. But it's supposed to be. It's an exploitation game. It does what it says on the tin.
Hey.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a very curious spin-off, to say the least, and like you said, it is crude as fuck, and it doesn't give two shits either way or the other. But again, I do agree that this is the only era where this type of game could have been released, and I am glad that it exists for as unapologetically rude as it is.
And the ending cutscene, the guy calls it on its bullshit too. Like, it's just him saying, like, now hold on a minute. How can you say she's a feminist when this bullshit? Like, he just launches a tirade against the game, its principle itself. It's brilliant. I was like, oh my god, this game's fantastic.
But hey, you call everyone a motherfucker, but you didn't call the warden a motherfucker when he actually was a motherfucker, or however that exchange went. Oh Jesus, yeah.
So then, if we take a left turn from what that was to what this is, anyone have an opinion on Typing of the Dead?
I played it. I love it.
I've never played it, but it looks fun.
I played it once.
I actually, somehow, back when, you could actually validly collect for games if you weren't, part of the fucking 1%. And I have opinions on that I'm not going to get into right now. But I did actually get Typing of the Dead for the Dreamcast. And I actually also had the Dreamcast port of House of the Dead 2, and the semi-official light gun came with it, and I played the hell out of that back in the Dreamcast's prime back in 99-2000, and that's how I got to love Hot D2 and the entire series so much. But several years later, I did also get Typing of the Dead and the fucking keyboard that came with it. I do not know how I managed to snag that in retrospect. I guess eBay just... was it even eBay, or did I make it? Christ, I don't even remember how I got most of the shit I have now. But, yes, I have played it several times in all of its goofy glory, and it is just a real good time to say the least. I like how the bosses had their own gimmicks, like you had to form like much more full sentences, and like the magician, he'd instantly hit you if you screwed up at all, and like the final boss, he asks you some quiz questions and all that. It's a really interesting time to say the least, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember the one time I did play it, I enjoyed it.
It's a good one, yes. And the game's presentation is also goofier because James and Gary, the protagonists, instead of guns, they have like these keyboards attached to backpacks that look wildly out of place that are really excellent. So
I've seen a few cosplayers do that at cons. I think that's pretty brilliant. Good job.
That's awesome! Holy shit! They get it. They get it. Awesome. Kudos.
So let's switch over from quirky to the other House of the Dead related game. My favorite.
Bullets.
Zombie Revenge. Any game where you could pick up like a drill with a 4-foot bit on it and just start chopping up zombies that way, I am totally fine with.
It's been a really long time since I played Zombie Revenge, but yes, it is fantastic beat / shoot 'em up. I don't even really know how to characterize it, and
it's like Die Hard Arcade. Die Hard Arcade in a way, like
kinda, yeah. Except it had a lot more. It had a lot more gun emphasis. Like you could get guns in Die Hard Arcade, but this one you always had a pistol with you, and there are even bigger guns that you could pick up. So it was. It's a very interesting hybrid between a gunning game and a beat 'em up. I recall that the Dreamcast port had a mode where your melee sucked, but the guns were stronger, which was good for the speed character Linda. And conversely, there was a mode where the guns were weaker, but beating the zombies up worked better. So that was perfect for the power character Busujima, who totally looks like he's out of a different era of movie somehow, with the Jerry curl hair and the shades, and he doesn't have a shirt and whatnot. Busujima is awesome. I like him.
Well, for me, it always comes back to that drill.
I forget when you get the drill, but there was a lot of cool shit you could pick up in that game.
I think you're a few stages in. I just remember the first time I found it, I picked it up and it's like, oh, really? All right, bring it on. In fact, there's a book I'm working on right now, well, kind of, where I actually reference that as like a late night zombie movie that's being watched. Right down to the drill.
You ever see Dead Alive on that note?
Yes.
I have not seen Dead Alive, but I know about it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's one of the best rentals I've ever had in my life.
I would say it's very much in the the Evil Dead style of over-the-top horror, Rob, so I think you would like it.
Yeah, I've heard that about it.
Yes.
It's also it's funny, too, because like there's people who saw Dead Alive before Peter Jackson was announced to be the director of Lord of the Rings, and it was like, what? The guy who made Meet the Feebles is doing Lord of the Rings? What?
Now,
bad tastes, Peter Jackson?
Yep.
Yeah. I remember seeing Meet the Feebles, and it's like, okay, who at New Line said, hey, this Peter Jackson guy? Meet the Feebles, man. Let's give him the keys to our multi-million-dollar trilogy franchise here.
I admit I still have to see Meet the Feebles. I know. I will someday, though. But I have seen The Frighteners. That one's really damn good.
I love The Frighteners.
Yeah, that was intense. That's a lot, honestly. I was kind of surprised how intense that movie is.
It fucking places, yeah. Like, man, can't recommend it enough. Great showing for Jeffrey Combs. He's great in everything he's in, but I think that was a bit of a touch of mainstream success that he didn't usually get, relatively speaking. But although he was also Wei-Yun on Deep Space Nine, so he got a lot of exposure there. But yes.
And which Busey was in that? That was
Jake.
Jake Busey.
I believe it was Jake.
Was he scarier with or without the death disguise?
Probably without. I mean, it He was pretty unnerving in Starship Troopers, but he did fit the real gung-ho vibe of crazy war addicted soldier that movie was going for. So hard to say, really.
Would you like to know more?
I was actually going to say to you, like, this is well, we're going down the horror movie chat, but anyway, I'll say, like, if you haven't seen on the Dead Alive tip, if you haven't seen Cemetery Man, that's a recommendation.
Delamorte Delamore, that one.
That's it.
I have not, but I've heard a lot of good about it. I'll put it on my list for sure.
It's fantastic. I actually just got the Blu-ray. I think Jason from Giant Bomb gifted it to me. Of all people, I don't know people who buy it. Yeah, it's like, what? And like, cool, thanks, Unistrike. But yeah, he was like, no, you have to watch this movie, and it's fantastic. If you have not watched Cemetery Man, and which is what they call it here, definitely worth it. If you like Evil Dead, Dead Alive, it reminded me of the first time I saw Evil Dead 2. I never thought I would feel that way again.
Really?
If I haven't seen it by October, I am definitely going to view it for October.
And my interest just ratcheted up right there. You invoked the name of Evil Dead 2, so Dead by Dawn. And speaking of Evil Dead, there have been some games.
There have, yes. I have not played a single one of them.
I have owned both Hail to the King and A Fistful of Boomstick.
And they're okay, from what I understand?
Yeah.
The first one's not. It's Countdown Vampires-y. It's
5 out of 10?
Yeah, it wants to be Resident Evil, I think. Just with an Evil Dead skin. And granted, the best thing about it is, of course, Bruce Campbell.
Oh, of course.
I love how if you just let the title screen sit there, and you'll just sit there, all of a sudden you'll hear, push the friggin' start button, will ya? Hello, push the start button. It's just like, okay, this game has a sense of humor, and I love it because that's perfectly in line with Evil Dead. Now, Fistful of Boomstick, that was... I like that one a bit better.
That's a PlayStation 2 one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They also did a third one called Regeneration, which I never got to play.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
But there was also the recent 4 versus 1 Friday the 13th type Dead by Daylight type one.
Yeah.
That recently got delisted or something. Like, I've never gotten into those type of games because I don't like to play online with people that I have to talk to.
I don't either. You understand.
Yeah. I don't play online with anybody, so...
Yeah, I mean, occasionally I will enjoy a good run of Left 4 Dead if I know the people in question, but I don't play with randos. Don't do that ever. Please don't. In my opinion. So.
I mean, it looked cool, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, it's Evil Dead. It looks really cool. I mean, they're bringing characters from like every movie and the TV series, but no.
I don't know how that asymmetrical horror setup became like the model for like every licensed horror game at that point, but I can nominally appreciate the concept, but I wish there were more, single player horror games that worked more like this. But maybe I'm asking for too much. I don't know.
There's a blood splattered room in the cave here that you can go play those kind of games.
Yeah, I know.
But I know there was a couple of at least one earlier Evil Dead game for computers. I never played that, obviously. But
yeah, I've only seen it. I saw it in the horror book, and I've seen like a video or two about it. It's real early, like ZX Spectrum kind of stuff, or Amiga, whatever.
Exactly. I'm still bummed they never really finished the TV show. They just, killed it after season 3.
Wait, which show is this?
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
That's right. Well, it did. I forget. Did it end on the note that it did because it knew it wasn't going to get renewed? Because it would be really hard to follow up on where the very last scene of that series went.
Hard to say. I don't ever remember reading about it.
I see.
But
I really loved it for when it existed, though. It was a really fucking fun time.
Mm-hmm. I didn't like the fact they really couldn't reference Army of Darkness out loud, but at least they, kind of reference it kind of vaguely.
Yeah.
I didn't put some, I do have to start kind of winding it down. I'm old and tired. I didn't know. I'm so used to not just chill talking on podcasts. It's a little bit more timed than I'm used to. Usually you do that kind of thing. So this has been fun. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, oh crap, I don't know when to end the conversation.
Oh, no worries, Rusty. I actually just got a new puppy recently, and I have to be up at 7:30 in the morning to walk him every day because that's when he starts barking. I don't like getting up at 7:30 in the morning if I can help it.
Yeah, if we want to cut this one earlier than usual, I'm good for that, but there are so many other games that I could talk about. I didn't mention anything from the Sega Genesis, for example. So I'm wondering, should we just hold a second horror stream in the future where we just do what we did, but we talk about more?
Yeah, we go.
I'd be more than happy to come back another time, for sure, if you
awesome.
Me.
Sure.
Yeah, Rusty, I know you mentioned before the stream that you might want to talk a little bit of Parasite Eve, and I just finally beat that most recent December. So yeah, I totally intend to talk about Parasite Eve when we come back to this, but we didn't even get around the Nightmare Creature. Shit.
So we still have plenty to talk about.
I'm people who like the third birthday, which is the people hated the Parasite that version, but I can talk about that. Actually, never gonna run playing 2, so maybe I'll play Parasite Eve 2 and then come back.
I've heard more mixed about 2, but in light of the third birthday apparently being one of the worst abominations ever conceived, that I mentioned Susie the Sphere Hunter. She didn't have a lot. She usually likes to consider upsides and downsides, but she apparently did not have a lot of good things to say about that one.
It's a cover shooter. It's a different kind of game. I think.
Oh, it is? Oh, that's gross. Fuck. God damn it. I am allergic to 7th gen bullshit like that.
I'm trying to get myself out of RPG mode that I've been in for the past little while, so I got to get back into some action stuff, and there's some good horror action out there. So
there is, yes. I could do some serious boning on some horror games that I didn't get around to yet, but I've covered a pretty good. Exactly. I remember I put Dino Crisis on the list. I'm not sure how horror-y that is. It's maybe a little bit of a different, even cheesier flavor of horror than Resident Evil is, but not for nothing, it still is going for similar vibes. So, but yes,
yeah, we still have plenty to talk about.
Yes, I'd love to have another one, and Rusty, even fantastic to have on. I feel like there's a lot of taste that we share, just based on anything that you've talked about that I picked up upon. So this was really fucking fun, man.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Yeah, it was a very, very easy. I didn't have to think a lot during this, which I mean in a good way. It's very, very natural flowing conversation, casual.
That's how we do things here.
Damn Skippy.
So, to go ahead and close things out, then, let's see, in 2 weeks, we're going to have another stream about something. I don't know what exactly, but something. And one thing I can tell you for sure, though, is that on the 28th, we will be having our first actual roundtable in a little while, ever since we did the Goemon roundtable. Or Goemon, or however you want to pronounce it. This time it's another console-specific one. I'll save it for you to find out which one that's going to be later on. It's going to be pretty big. We're going to have several people on, not just 4 that we usually have for a round table. There's going to be at least 6.
Yep.
And you might find it pretty interesting. Beyond that, everyone who hasn't yet needs to check out Rusty's work. And there's a link to his Blue Sky in the video description where you can find all his other links.
Also, I've been I tell people all the time, I've been doing this for a long time, so just Google Rusty Shackles art, you'll find me.
Okay, that works.
I'm pretty lucky to have planted that seed, and it's pretty locked in. So,
and as I always say, my books are on sale. You can get those. Contact me directly for digital copies if you haven't already. And you can just go right to West Mansion. There's links to all the books right there, including the Hardcore Gaming 101 Digest Volume 3, The Guide to Retro Horror.
And like I said earlier, I'm semi-retired from writing for HG 101, but I know at least in some of the earlier books, and maybe in a few of the more modern ones, there is stuff that I've written that made it into those. So I don't know if I'll get back to... Yeah. The Strider and Bionic Commando book is almost completely my own, except I think Kurt had to write about Bionic Commando Rearm 2 because I never really got beyond the demo for that one. But
that was another one of my covers, so yeah.
Yep.
I had very mixed thoughts on what I did play. But
the cover is awesome, though. You got it.
Thank you.
Oh, totally.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't want to go into it too far, but like I'm a huge Faith No More fan, and like Mike Patton in general.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
It was like cool. He's the voice of Bionic Commando in the new. It was a real monkey ball situation. But yeah, because I was listening to Hardcore Gaming 101's podcast, and they talked about the Ninja Turtles game recently, and somebody just said it's the guy from Mr. Bungle. I think his name is Mr. Bungle, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh dear. You got to be kidding me.
That goes.
Have you heard of Phantomas? Have you heard of Tomahawk? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess he was not thinking straight because he was so loaded on alcohol. I guess he could say goodbye sober. Okay, that was a really terrible fucking setup. I'm going to shut up.
So I'll say this.
I'm obviously losing it early. So
let me ask you this, Rusty: best Faith No More album?
It's Angel Dust. I mean,
Angel Dust. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's my favorite album of all time. And the thing is, like, I don't know anybody who likes that album who liked it for the first year. They didn't like it. You don't look at that when it came out in 92, 91, whatever. It was just like, what? And it took a while. Then eventually I was like, oh shit, I get it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it is an extremely different beast from the real thing. That is
for that
true.
Time period. It's wildly different.
And it was almost more indicative of the crazier, more experimental shit that Patton would get into with Phantomas and Mr. Bungle and so forth.
Yeah.
But and it probably is even a little bit weirder than the Faith No More albums that followed it, but it is just a magnificently eclectic work of like the sort of artistic insanity that Patton and the rest of like for as much as I really like Patton, I don't want to give the short shrift like Jim, Roddy Bottom or Jim.
Buffy.
Yeah. That fuck my brain's going, but
and James Martin of Faith No More.
They also hated each other at that point. Like, so that's the thing. Like, they all hated each other for their first. So when they came back with Soul Invictus, I was like, "Oh, you're a bunch of old guys who compromise now." This is the most boring fucking album. I'm stunned. I know there's a lot of people who loved it. I was like, "Yeah, you guys are just being nice. It's not memorable in any way, shape, or form." But when they despised each other, they made beautiful music.
Yeah.
That's
just how some bands work, for better or worse. But I do like the song "Motherfucker." Other than that, I don't remember much else from Soul Invictus. But
I liked Matador.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. Yeah, it's actually been a while since I listened to any of their albums in full. I never even got around to the two pre-Patton albums. The one with Chuck Mosley. I know they're a very, very different beast from Angel Dust and onward, also. But
there's Introduce Yourself and the first the white and blue cover one. I'm blanking on.
We Care a Lot.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And they're fine. Like, it's honestly, I think Anne's song is one of the best songs they ever did, but it's in the Chuck Mosley era, and it's kind of buried as a result.
Yeah. I do admit to having a soft spot for the final album they did before they disbanded, Until Soul Invictus came. I can't think of the name.
The Year, yes.
Yeah, Album of the Year. Yeah, that's it.
That one's also
good. Yeah, I mean, Album of the Year too. Oops.
That was a good one. I liked it a bit better than King for a Day.
Yeah, my thoughts are a little mixed in King for a Day, but
I saw them live on the King for a Day tour, so that one's kind of special to me. Because I was at the Liberty Lunch in Austin, and like when they did Take This Bottle, like people stopped and waltzed, which was what? Beautiful to see. Also, the thing is too, because like he did live versions of "I Started a Joke" and "Spanish Eyes," which were not on the album in America, and the singles, and it was just like seeing him sing those live is just the talent is unreal. The one other thing that was interesting was Roddy Bottum could not take his eyes off me the entire concert, and then later I found out I was like, oh okay, I get it. I'm flattered. It was very nice. I was like, this is kind of weird, guys, right? You know, but yeah, no, because my other friends were like, yeah, Roddy Bottom is totally in your business. I'm like, all right, well, so the King for a Day has some nice memories for me, I guess.
I had one chance to see them, and I didn't even find out about it until after it was over. And on top of that, I didn't have the money to go see them anyway, because this was back when you remember the Guns and Metallica tour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they opened for him.
Mm-hmm.
And
for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that where I was living, they actually were still with the Guns and Metallica tour when they hit that, because a friend of mine who was telling me about it, he's like, yeah, Faith No More opened for him. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh, man.
I could have seen Faith No More, Metallica, and Guns N' Roses. Why am I just a high school student with no money?
Yeah, I feel that.
I think this was shortly after I started my porn smuggling business, but you know, that's a different story entirely.
Real quick on that tip, like the funny thing was actually just that you're talking about missed opportunities, and I was talking about Austin earlier. A little bit, like a number of years ago in, I guess, 98, 99. I'm not this is not a cool band to mention anymore. But I was a really big fan of Sublime's first album, 40 Ounce to Freedom, before I realized, oh, the songs I like are all covers. Okay. Which is the majority of the album. But yeah, so Liberty Lunch, they were there, and like there was too long of a line, and it was just like, they'll be back. 2 weeks later, he kind of unalived himself. I was like, oh, okay. So that's another one that like it was like I could have seen them, and then I would have never told anybody I saw Sublime ever after that.
Yeah. Well, that's like I had a chance to go see Nirvana and had to pass because I had no money. And I'm thinking, I'll be able to catch them next time they come around. And, well, yeah, let's just say that never happened.
Oh, bogus. Well.
So, anyway. Same thing happened with Typo Negative. I never got to see them live because I either missed them or I didn't have the money, and then Pete Steele died of heart issues, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so.
So,
well.
Oh, well.
The same thing, like, I would love to have seen Morphine, but he had a heart attack.
Mark Sandman, yeah.
Such a loss of talent.
Yeah.
Really, definitely.
Well,
welcome to. I hope you enjoyed our depressing not concert story stream. I'm being an a-hole. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you a-hole.
I can if I want to.
He works blue all night and then decides to censor asshole.
I have no consistency whatsoever.
There you go. That's more like it. All right, guys. So the old guys are going to go ahead and call it a night.
Yep, but I would love to do another horror stream because there's horror game stream because there's so much more that we could talk about. I am glad I got to get on a tangent of Dead Rising though. Rusty, thank you so much for bringing that up because I love the game. Totally.
Next time we're talking about Nightmare Creatures for sure.
Yes. In fact, I'm going to try and attempt to beat that one before we ever do that again. So, good idea.
All right. So, hopefully with whatever we do in 2 weeks, we'll see you then. So, until next time, have a fun.
Enjoy.